Good evening and welcome. I'm Nathan Zipper, Chief Economic Development Officer for Williamson, Inc., Chamber of Commerce and Office of Economic Development. On behalf of Williamson, Inc. and our co-sponsors, I want to thank all three of the candidates for County Mayor, Andy Marshall, BK Mavara, and Mary Smith, for their willingness to put their names on the ballot and engage in the process. We learned early this morning from BK that due to unforeseen circumstances, he's unable to participate in tonight's forum. Previously, he completed a video interview and questionnaire with all mayoral candidates. Those are available on the Chamber website. We are sorry he's unable to be here, and we wish him the best. I would also like to thank Franklin Tomorrow, the League of Women Voters of Williamson County, WAKM Radio, Williamson County Association of Realtors, and the Williamson Herald for their partnership and role in making this event happen. Thank you to members of the audience in person and watching from home tonight for your engagement in our electoral process. Thanks also to Williamson County TV for broadcasting and recording this event. As the county's Chamber of Commerce and Office of Economic Development at Williamson, Inc., we take our role of convener and resource for reliable information very seriously. To that end, we have compiled interviews of candidates for mayor, county commission, and local school boards by district, candidate questionnaires, and election day information on our website at williamsonchamber.com/vote. The link to the video for tonight will be added later. We encourage you to review those resources prior to Election Day on May the 5th. With that, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Shane Hall with our host, Columbia State Community College, for a few remarks.
Thank you, Nathan. So I'm Shane Hall. I'm Columbia State's Vice President of the Williamson Campus and Community Engagement. And I just wanted to take a moment to formally welcome you to the campus. If you haven't been to Columbia State's Williamson campus before, it is a beautiful space where education happens. We offer over 80 programs here. You can start virtually any future you want. And that is our role at Columbia State, is connecting people with their future. So Columbia State serves over 6,000 students a year. Over half of those students on ground attend this campus. Over 1,300 students taking dual enrollment classes at our Williamson County high schools are serviced by Columbia State. So with that note, I want to thank you for bringing your electoral process here to our campus and the opportunity to showcase the beauty that is Columbia State. Thank you so much.
Shane, thank you again for your hospitality and your partnership. So at this time, I will turn it over to Garnet Thurman, our Director of Government and Community Relations, who is serving as tonight's moderator.
Again, I want to thank our candidates, the co-sponsors, Williamson County TV, and Chad Gray and the Williamson County Election Commission for their participation and engagement in tonight's event. My name is Garnet Thurman. I'm with the Chamber. First, we're going to introduce our panelists, Derby Jones, co-owner and writer for the Williamson Herald. Jason Murphy, president of the Williamson County Association of Realtors. And Dorinda Smith, president of the League of Women Voters of Williamson County. Few reminders, housekeeping. If you have not silenced your cell phones, please do so. And while we understand you may be here in support of a particular candidate, we ask you to refrain from applause or reactions to candidate statements and comments as we proceed this evening. I will go quickly over the rules. The rules were distributed to all candidates prior to tonight's event. Questions were developed and reviewed by representatives of all of our co-sponsors. The questions are representative of issues identified as important to this community and are not attributable to an individual panelist or organization. Candidates are seated alphabetically by name. We will follow that order, beginning with the opening statements, and then move through the questions in that same order, alternating between candidates. Each candidate will have a 2-minute opening statement. There will be 2 rounds of questions tonight. One is open response questions. Another is a lightning round. With the open response, a panelist will present the question. Each candidate will have 1 minute and 30 seconds to answer that question. There will be no rebuttals, and candidates are asked not to interrupt or question the other candidates. This will be followed by the lightning round in the same order. where open response questions ended, the panelist will present the question. Each candidate in this round is expected to respond to that question with a yes, no, or simple 2 or 3 word answer, and that will be immediately followed by the next question. Peg McCree with the League of Women Voters is our official timekeeper this evening. She's located in the front row and she is practicing her bell ringing. She will hold up a card, candidates, when there is 1 minute left for your response, again at 30 seconds, and then if she rings the bell, that means your time is up. We're going to begin with opening statements from each candidate. Andy Marshall first, followed by Mary Smith.
Thank you, Garnet, and thank y'all for being here tonight. I appreciate this engagement. I'm Andy Marshall, and many of you know my story. At 13 years old, I was asked to leave the house. That story was not the end of my story, it was the beginning, because after that, I found my way to Williamson County, which then led to a great life. This community saved me. It put me on a great foundation to success. And I went to great schools here, and I made lifelong friends here. From here, I went on to MTSU, where I had met my future wife of 41 years, Jan, and I also got a good education. From there, we brought our life back to Williamson County, where we started raising our family here, and we started building our businesses from ground up. So Williamson County has been great to us and been a blessing, and we've tried to give back to it in every way we possibly could. Well, because of that, I'd like to thank those that came before us, that laid such a great foundation to this community, that allows somebody like Andy Marshall to come from a broken home and find his way to success. That matters. And we want to keep that here in Williamson County. We also want to thank those that had the foresight to give us schools that not only are the best in the state, but in the top 20 in the nation. That matters. I also want to thank them for leading us in a direction that allows us to go from here to where we can go next. I believe our best days are still in front of us, and I'm excited about that. I think you're choosing a leader tonight, and you're looking at who can best build cooperation and collaboration with our cities to stay on the comprehensive growth plan that we have. Who will protect our culture and our way of life that we built here in Williamson County? And who will best represent all the associates of Williamson County? Thank you very much.
Ms. Smith.
Good evening, and thank you to Williamson Inc. and tonight's sponsors for hosting this forum. Many of you may already know me, but for those hearing from me for the first time, I'd like to briefly share who I am and why I'm running. My path to this moment has been shaped by both service and experience. I was raised in a family that believed in stewardship, where every dollar mattered and leadership meant serving others, not yourself. For over 20 years, Williamson County has been home, where my husband Wade and I raised our family and built our life. Professionally, my career spans more than 30 years, from building small businesses to leadership at Nissan North America. I've led teams, managed complex operations, and delivered results. And I've seen what makes our economy strong. From our small businesses and corporate partners to a thriving tourism industry that showcases our history and charm, to our farming community that preserves our land and defines our quality of life. But I've also seen the challenges. Employers struggling to find talent, families struggling with housing costs, and a growing disconnect between where people work and where they can afford to live. When young families can't put down roots, we risk losing our future. As a mom of young adult children, this is personal to me. That's why strong partnerships between our county, businesses, and agricultural community are essential. Because a strong economy doesn't happen by accident. It requires leadership that understands both the public and private sectors. For the past 4 years, I've served as your District 5 County Commissioner. I haven't just held the title, I've done the work. I've been in the meetings, asked the tough questions, and worked alongside our departments to understand how this county truly operates. Because being county mayor is a full-time job, and we can't afford on-the-job training. I've seen the challenges, traffic, rising costs, and growth outpacing infrastructure, but I know we can address them the right way. We can support our businesses and protect our farmland and heritage. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. We're moving to the open response questions. Our first question will be by Derby Jones, and it will go to Mary Smith first, followed by Andy Marshall.
Okay. Williamson County's property tax rate is the lowest of all 14 counties in the entire metro Nashville area. The county also has a AAA bond rating, considered the best credit rating. Describe your approach to the county's budget while ensuring the property tax rate remains low and the bond ratings remain high while still providing necessary essential services.
Yes, thank you for the question. As I've said many, many times, I do believe that there are so many opportunities with this county to really look at our revenue streams. I think that there's ways that we can actually start to monetize some of our assets. I know some folks have whispered that I'm interested in, selling the Ag Center. That is not true. I think the Ag Center is a great service to our community, and I'm very excited about what I've heard from the Parks and Rec director on how we can actually bring more events to our community. So I think that's one area we've got to look at. We do have a low property tax rate, but right now we're seeing our property values go up. So even though the rate is low, the taxes we pay are still significant. So I think it's really important for county government to make sure we're doing everything we can to exhaust all the different revenue options and cost savings in different departments before we actually go back to our taxpayers to take on a higher burden. We're dealing with affordability issues, and I think that there's just, all sorts of possibilities of what we can do to make sure that that rate stays low. On the budget committee, we did look at line items across the entire county. I think there's efficiencies that can be made across our insurance and across other contract services. So I want to explore everything. Some of the best ideas have come from our county employees, and I think that we actually need to explore those ideas and actually see if we can bring them to fruition, because our county employees deserve a competitive pay.
Mr. Marshall?
Thank you, sir. Yeah, so our property rate per our property value is the lowest it's ever been. It's remarkable what has happened in years of growth. If you've lived here as long as I have, our property values have just gone up and up and up, and it's been a blessing to our family. It's been a way that we've built wealth through property values and their increases. So it gives us the lowest tax rates too. I mean, when you look at our tax rate compared to every county that's around us, we're in great shape. Our tax rates are tremendous. And yes, it comes from increased property values, but that's a good thing. Increased property values is a positive thing for this community, and it's a positive thing for people that want to grow their wealth. We need to protect our culture. We need to provide opportunities for other families to continue to come here and grow and enjoy the beautiful part of Williamson County that we all grew up with. It's all important. But listen, we don't have a problem with our tax rates. We have a problem with our growth and keeping up with the growth right now. We've had tremendous growth over the recent years, and now we've got to address that growth. We've got to catch up with it. We've got to get back ahead of it and make sure that, that we continue to provide opportunities throughout this county. We've got a lot of work to do, and I'm up for it, and I'm ready for it.
Very good. Ready? I think this one will start with you, Mr. Marshall. So debt is a central issue in this campaign, specifically if and when debt is appropriate. There are two options to reduce debt. One, increase revenue, or two, reduce spending. If your plan is to increase revenue, which taxes would you plan to raise? Or if your plan is to reduce spending, which services would you plan to cut?
Well, I don't plan to increase taxes at all. I mean, we are on a great trajectory in this county. And yes, there's needs ahead of us, but that AAA bond rating allows us to continue to grow our county and our services in a way that's responsible. And so leaning in and saying that we would increase taxes, No, sir. I don't think we have to do that. Decrease, you talk about decreasing? Sir, we're talking about changing the quality of life we have here in Williamson County. So we got to find a balance. And quite frankly, you either do it with, as you suggested, tax increase or cutting, or you lean into our AAA bond rating, and we protect that at all costs. And I'm suggesting that you don't have to increase taxes and that you don't have to decrease services in Williamson County. We can continue on the path we are. We're reducing our debt, paying it off responsibly, and we can lean into it when we need it.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Smith?
Well, as I mentioned before, I do think there are opportunities to increase our revenue that does not put a larger tax burden on our citizens. We have some wonderful assets in Williamson County, and I think we can use those assets and find ways to actually increase the revenue. As I mentioned earlier, Parks and Rec, it's about a $22 million budget every year, but they bring in about $13 million. And I think there's other possibilities, and I'm not talking about raising fees. I don't want to see a further burden on our youth sports. I love our youth sports. They do an amazing job, or our fees. But we can look at that. We can look and see what the citizens actually would agree to. So I think we can bring the community in and see what those possibilities are. But I did mention earlier, too, the Ag Center, I think, is another incredible opportunity, that we have. When it comes to cost savings, I think, one of the things that I did when I was on the Budget Committee is I was actually able to go to the comptroller site. They have an amazing site. Every county, every municipality has to upload their cost to the site, and I was able to download all the information for all 95 counties and actually start to do some digging in and see how are we comparing in some of our costs and some of our spending to what other counties are spending? And maybe we can work with our neighbors. Maybe we can find some economies of scale. If they're spending less on different line items, their expenses per capita are less than ours, then let's find out what our neighbors are doing to actually save money in those areas. So I do think that there's cost savings to be found. The AAA bond rating, of course we want to keep that. That's a fantastic tool. But we do not want to pay for all of our growth on the credit card. We got to make sure we do a better job being disciplined.
Thank you very much.
This will begin with Ms. Smith. Identify your top 3 infrastructure issues in the community, including, and please to include specifics, on which is your top priority and how you would tackle those issues and pay for them, whether that's pay as you go or through bonding.
I think when I think of the top 3, the first one that just kind of came to mind was I think we got to think about infrastructure not just in terms of roads. We also have to think about our public safety. We have the public safety area, and that's an area that I think we need to make sure we're investing in. In the unincorporated area, what we have right now is we have a volunteer fire department. And it takes about a year to actually train those volunteers to be able to go in and tackle those fires. And I think we've seen recently, there's been a couple of house fires in the Grassland area. There's another one in the College Grove area. These are really expensive homes, and people work really hard for them. When you have volunteers that have to travel almost an hour to get there, we can do better. We got to make sure that we start to really focus on the public safety aspect, and that includes our EMS, that includes our, our dispatch, 911 dispatch. These people do real heroic work, and we need to make sure that we're investing in those areas. When it comes to the roads, that's a bigger issue. We've got to work with the state on some of the, major thoroughfares. There is some expansions coming, which is great. But we can also do things locally. We can work with our municipalities, make sure that we're working on some of those roads that cross multiple municipalities. Clovercroft comes to mind on my side of the county. So I do think that there's opportunities to work with municipalities on some of the bottlenecks. And when we can use technology to actually help us find where those bottlenecks are happening. And third, we're having a lot of issues with these non-traditional wastewater systems. The septic systems over in Grassland. Now I'm hearing that it's actually over on the east side too. We got to make sure we're investing in those and working with TDEC.
So for me, I'll start with Grassland. We have some failing septics there, and I hated to miss the meeting that was going on just before this, to be here and prepare for this, because those citizens out there that need a solution are trying to find that solution, and how can they either connect to existing infrastructure, or how can the current provider out there be expanded, but the failing ones be taken care of first before you add on new growth. So that needs to be addressed right away. And when we talk about road projects, state of Tennessee is $83 billion behind in infrastructure. Their model used to work when we build with cash only. But now with all the sudden growth that we've had, they've gotten behind. And we, the citizens of Williamson County, are feeling it. So we've got to be able to work with the state and convince them that we need to change our model, at least until we get caught up. Williamson County's $5 billion behind in infrastructure projects. So we've got to work on getting those things on the table and getting them done. And we got to make sure things don't fall off the table like they tried to do last week when 5 projects were going to be taken off. We had to fight to keep them on. And last is working on our volunteer fire department and a hybrid system that can work long-term for this county without the cost.
Thank you.
All right, question 4. And this goes to Mr. Marshall. As county mayor, you will have to work with elected officials at all levels of government. Share your strategy in working with other local officials and leaders to accomplish your goals for Williamson County.
Absolutely. This really leans into my strengths of running business over years. When you're running a business, everything matters, and you build relationships in those years of running your business. And I've not only built relationships here in this county, but I've built them across the state and at the state. I've also built relationships nationwide because hospitality touches a lot of industries. And it's so important to our tax revenue that we are the largest provider of tax dollars in the state of Tennessee. So we've had lots of conversations. So leaning into those relationships has brought in my ability to bring people to the table. I think you can see as the people that are supporting me in this race, statewide, I've got the governor and former Governor Haslam that are supporting me. Every mayor in this municipality is supporting me because they trust me and they believe in my style of collaboration and leadership. And I think that's something that's going to prove well as we move forward, particularly with the comprehensive growth plan. We're going to have somebody that has the courage to stay on that plan and work with our cities to get that accomplished and keep us moving forward.
Mr. Smith.
Yes, thank you. So when it comes to relationships, it's pretty much what I've built my career off of. I don't think that I would have gotten as far as I have in my career if I didn't know how to build relationships and build consensus. And I'm very proud of the teams that I've served. I'm very proud of the awards that they've won. And I do think that that is an area that I am strong in. I think that, where we might differ is I'm also willing to stand up and bring other ideas forward. And sometimes it's difficult when you're the person standing alone to actually be able to present those ideas and be able to kind of go against the grain and go against the status quo. But I'm not afraid of doing that. I have to do that. Sometimes you have to speak up and you have to be able to make sure that the people you represent are heard in the room. And so I do feel like I've had a career of building consensus and actually being able to negotiate with those we may not agree with. And I think that's a good thing because I think that you have to be able to, go against the grain. You have to be able to stand and you have to on your own. And you have to be courageous enough to know that everybody in that room may not agree with you, but they still need to hear you. And they need to know that you are representing the people that got you there, whether that's through your company, through a job, through a team leadership, or whether it's through being an elected official. I was elected to represent the people, and I will continue to do that to every extent that I can.
Good. All right, start with you again, Ms. Smith. Tax incentives. Confusion surrounds the use of local tax incentives. Williamson County has used tax incentives 14 times since 1992. In each case, the incentive was used for new jobs, never reduced the amount to schools, which effectively increased tax revenue by increasing the tax base, but not the tax rate. Do you support the use of local tax incentives? And what criteria would you use to evaluate requests for them?
I think when it comes to tax incentives, I think you have to ask yourself what the goal is. So when you look at tax incentives and who you're trying to bring in, you always have to ask yourself, are we achieving that goal by offering that incentive? I do think that there's other ways when sometimes when you think of tax incentives, sometimes people feel like, we're picking the winners and the losers. And so you actually have to make sure that, there's a benefit, and if there's a true benefit to the community, you have to be sure to educate people on what that benefit is. Because people do hear tax abatements, they hear those words, and immediately it goes to, well, now I'm paying for somebody to come here. So you have to be careful about how you word them and how you educate people in the community with regards to them. But if there's a goal to be achieved, then that goal should be open for everybody to understand what it is we're trying to do. There are jobs to be created. I think that tax incentives need to be fair. We also don't want to bring people in and actually take jobs away. And so I think what we're seeing right now with a 2% unemployment rate is that we have a fair amount of jobs. We have tons of opportunities, and we just got to be cautious. So if we're still attracting new people to come, we got to understand where that workforce is coming from. Is that a workforce that can live here, or is that a workforce that's going to have to live outside our county and then drive into our county and actually just make some of the issues worse? So we got to be really careful about, how we attract and how we build, but I think it's important to have a good pipeline of economic development because things are always changing, trends are changing, industries are changing, and so I think it's really important to make sure we have a healthy pipeline.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall?
Yeah, so, tax incentives are a tool. They're usually used as a way of attracting an industry or a headquarters that we want here in Williamson County, and we're competing for that. We're competing against a lot of municipalities in a lot of cases for that. But I think it's less about, it's about return on investment. I mean, I look at, from a business standpoint, you look at what is the return on investment. If we're going to give up something, what do we get in return, and how does that benefit the citizens of this community? But more importantly, I think you lean into our partners. Williamson County doesn't have to foot the bill every time that there's incentives. The state will foot a lot of these bills, and you can lean into the different organizations of the state, the chambers and the TDOT and these other places that also have an interest in these companies coming, and they will foot a lot of that bill for us. And we only put money in when we have to, and we're the last one to put that money in. And we've done that on several occasions. We've attracted great companies, and if it needed to push it over the top, we would do that. But in many cases, we've not had to do that because the state has provided enough incentives to make it happen. And I think that's smart.
Thank you.
Mr. Marshall, we'll start with you. Housing is increasingly mentioned as an issue, specifically affordable, attainable, and/or workforce housing. Share your thoughts on this issue and how you would address concerns.
So, over the years, I've been on many nonprofit boards, and it's on every one of our discussions. Everybody wants it, everybody talks about it, but nobody is doing it. So it's going to take a collaboration and bringing people together, all the different folks that have ideas. There are some best practices around this country that are doing it. We've got some individuals within our community that are building attainable housing in other communities. So it's going to have to be a partnership between public and private to get that done. It's going to have to be done where infrastructure is already in place and it doesn't put a strain on infrastructure. It's going to have to be done in a way that is aesthetically pleasing to the communities that we build them in, but it can be done. It's fixable, it's doable, and I'm excited about the opportunity to bring the right people to the table, and let's find the areas that we can do that in. It is actually happening in small pockets here in Williamson County, but we need more of it. Our police, our fire, our teachers would all love to live in this community, and we've got to find a way to do that again.
Ms. Smith?
Yes, so this is obviously something that's very personal to me because my children were all born here. They were all educated in our public schools. So we moved here for the public schools and we know the benefits that come from that. But my kids are now young adults. So I have a 23-year-old, I have a 21-year-old, and I have a 19-year-old. And my 23-year-old asks me all the time, she's like, Mom, when am I going to be able to live in the county that I was born and raised in and have my child go to our public schools that did such a great job for me? And so I take that personal. I take, finding solutions personal. And I have a lot of friends because when your kids go to school together, you make lifelong friends. And so I've had some of my friends come to me and they have actually come up with some creative ideas. We're being asked to build, apartment garages and making sure that we can actually support that in the county. So we are looking at our septic regulations so that we can allow for people to use their property more efficiently so that we can keep families together. I have parents that say, hey, we're going to build a cottage so our kids can live in our house and we'll live in the cottage right on the same property. So there's all these kinds of great ideas that the public has on how to keep families together. But it's sad when you hear these stories of either grandparents that wish they could move here to be closer to their grandkids, or you hear about kids that want to be closer to their aging parents. And it's a real issue that I think we have to look at. I do agree with Mr. Marshall. I mean, we do have to look and see, are there possibilities where existing infrastructure exists that we can actually revitalize and revigorate for some of these young people? But this is something we've got to tackle head on.
Okay. Next question goes to Commissioner Smith. You both have mentioned strategic growth here today. How do you define strategic growth, and what specific principles will you use to support or oppose projects in the future?
I think for me, strategic growth is being proactive, to have a plan in place that you have the facilities, you have the services there before the new development is complete. As anybody who's actually done development processes can take a long time, depending on what the development is. So I do think we have to start looking ahead. We have to make sure that we have the capacity at our schools. We have to make sure that we have the capacity on our roads. I mean, there was a time when we first moved here that the only time you actually had traffic was at the mall at Christmas time. So I miss those days. When I moved out to the east side of the county, I might get held up behind a tractor or a horse. That was fun. But we are lagging, and we're lagging behind right now, in our infrastructure. To me, being strategic is having a roadmap, looking at your trends, looking at the data, making sure you have the data in place. And you also got to look at where we're putting some of these pockets of development. We have to make sure that we are being strategic with preserving our rural heritage. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of history here. And the farming community is a great part of our community. And I know how hard it is for our farmers to sustain themselves. So we want to be strategic in making sure that we actually preserve our identity and that we take care of the things that make Williamson County so special.
Mr. Marshall.
Yes, so we have spent the last couple of years cooperatively working with the cities and the county and their planners to work on a comprehensive growth plan. It's a good plan. It's in place. And we have to have the courage to follow the plan and use the plan. And as soon as it hits the ground, not try to do an end around it and send it up to the state and complain about things that they want to be in control of. Our county does not need to get involved in what the city and a property owner want to do with the property owner's property. Individual property rights, it's a red line for me. We don't need to interfere with the individual property rights. A person that's in the UGB that doesn't want to be annexed, they won't be annexed unless they ask. So we have to have the opportunity to let these plans work and let them work to the efficiency of what the citizens want. That means these plans will have to be changed as the plans change. And who knows, down the road, when we catch up with our infrastructure and we get our growth in plan, I'm sure at that point, we'll want to look at pocket planning. Where does it make sense for us to do some pocket planning for growth? So, listen, for me, it's all about property rights and protecting those.
All right, thank you. Start with you, Mr. Marshall, on this one. Traffic. Traffic is listed consistently as a big issue for residents. Please share your plan on how to work with state and local officials to address traffic concerns.
Yeah, thank you for this question, because it is the number one thing. When we're door knocking and we're in front of the citizens of this community, traffic is a problem for them, and they get frustrated. They talk about how long it takes them to get home, how they worry about being able to pick up their kids when they're at ball practice and things like that. And we've all experienced it. It can be a headache, but the traffic is a problem from our growth, and our growth has outpaced the infrastructure for our state to stay up with. So we're going to have to be able to work with the state, and the state is starting to feel it. They're feeling the pressure. They're feeling the pressure that they've gotten farther and farther behind, and they're starting to look at what are some alternative ways that we could fund some roads. They're talking about, I mean, even the State Highway Commission is even leaning into maybe new projects. Maybe we could AAA bond new projects. But we need to do further than that. We need to fix what's broken, and we need to get caught up as quickly as possible on infrastructure. The state knows it, we know it, but we need somebody that can go up there and actually talk the language with them.
Very good. Ms. Smith?
Yeah, traffic is a major issue right now, and I think, I see it every day, the people that I work with, and it's every day juggling, time with your family, making sure you get home in time to pick up your child from school or pick them up from practice. So this is a major issue, but a lot of the traffic that we're seeing, especially on the east side, is not local traffic. A lot of that is traffic coming in from other counties, whether it's Rutherford or Marshall or Murray County. We've got a lot of people traveling through Williamson County to get to where they're going. And we do have to work with the state on some of those major thoroughfares. But as far as what we can do locally, I think when we're doing our development, I think some of the things that I'm seeing is we are trying to mitigate some of the traffic. We are trying to create different roadways, different bypasses. So I do think that there's some things that you can do locally. We need to make sure our highway department is properly funded. There's a lot of work happening on the east side. And so there are county roads too that we can look at to improve some of those bottlenecks. And the technology's there. We can use the technology, we can use AI, we can find ways to use the data to work with folks to find out, is there lights? Can we do different aspects of fixing some of these local issues? But at the end of the day, you don't want your child's memories to be looking out into the audience and not seeing you there because you got stuck in traffic.
Thank you.
Ms. Smith, we'll start with you. Last year, Williamson Health Board issued a letter sharing the possibility of selling the hospital. Although state law currently mandates that proceeds from a sale be spent on health care, undefined, there is a great debate about the sale and the money. Do you support the sale of the hospital? And if there are no spending restrictions, where would you specifically want to spend the money?
This has definitely been a big topic, and so it's been a very emotional topic for a lot of people. I can say myself, my children were born there, so it has a special place in my heart, even though I was having babies, I think, in coat closets, because I was actually there during remodeling every single time. But it's a great part of our community. It's a kind of a cornerstone of our community. It means a lot to a lot of people. There's a lot of memories that go to that hospital. It's been part of this community for 70 years. So my approach would be to kind of make sure that we're taking our time, we're getting the community's feedback. I've heard so many people have so many different ideas and so many different options too. I know that everyone wants to go directly to a sale, but I think you have to look at this as more than just a financial transaction. This is something that's an important part of our community. And so we just have to be thoughtful, and we have to be sensitive to what this means. There's over 1,000 people that work in that hospital. So I know that they're watching very closely to what decision the hospital board might make. We have requested for more transparency during this process. I think it's important to have a very open line of communication, with our constituents. And I think a lot of the commissioners still have a lot of questions on which direction we're going. I think there's been other options that have been presented to us, like why aren't we looking at leasing, and people concerned about what's going to happen to the cost of my health care. I think at the end of the day, our goal should always be a high-quality healthcare service here in our community that is taking care of the needs we have now. So I do think that there needs to be more time. I would like to see what the final decision is, and from there, we'll actually have to move forward.
Mr. Marshall?
Yes, ma'am. So we have a high-quality, low-cost health system now, and they've done a great job. It's a fantastic hospital. It's well-run. We have been fortunate that we don't have to fund it. They're self-sufficient, and they provide a lot of services outside of what we are responsible for at the county, like ambulance services and sports care, having somebody at every field event in case there's a problem or an accident there. And all those things are covered now. So as we look at this, the number one thing is we're going to do whatever the law provides. We're going to follow that. And right now, it's sitting on the governor's desk that hospitals sold for over $500 million would be exempt. But I do think we need to put some of the money, as originally intended, into a trust to take care of these needs that they're covering right now, so that we don't have to worry about them. And then additionally, the other monies then could be looked at more long-term projects if we want. I don't think they need to be immediately dumped into debt, because our debt is 1% of our debt to our property value is low, and some of those interest rates are even sub 1. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next question starts with Mr. Marshall. Impact fees. Impact fees are a tool used by Williamson County to ensure developers pay for development.
Mm-hmm.
The fee is paid by the developer, not residents, and generally dedicated to schools. Do you support the current use of impact fees?
Yes, I do. I want to support anything that's going to keep our schools healthy and keep them as the best in the state and tops in the nation. Impact fees, there's a lot of creative things that are being used right now to spread the cost of new projects down for developers. And they're bringing those to the table and talking about those. And but to completely do away with impact fees, if we didn't need them from schools, we certainly need them for road projects. And there's a lot that can be done with them. I don't like overburdening our contractors, but certainly growth creates opportunities for us to have to grow our schools, and it also impacts our roads and our infrastructure. So growth needs to pay for itself.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, impact fees. So yes, currently we do collect impact fees, and I think it's important to make sure we share that burden with the new development so it doesn't go on taxpayers. But I think that just recently we did look at an educational impact fee, and there was a proposal to increase it. It wasn't much, but I was kind of against doing this particular educational impact fee, because I think we've got to look at, if we're going to collect money from developers, we have to have more flexibility in how we use that money. So I would prefer to see us actually collect the money, be able to do things like roads, public safety. There's so many costs that we have in this county that right now we've got $91 million sitting in an educational impact fee fund that hopefully we can use most of it, but right now there's so many strings tied to it. I don't really know that we can build all of it just to build a single school. So then we have to look at taking out bond debt to do any of our capital projects. So if we're going to collect impact fees, I want to make sure that they're purposeful, they're flexible, and that we can actually start taking care of some of the needs we have now, rather than just having them sit there and then wonder if we'll be able to use them or not. So this is an area I think we need to further explore. And just understand, how can we actually make sure that development is paying for itself and that they are investing in infrastructure. But I do want to make sure that we are trying to keep those very purposeful and that we're not putting too much of a burden on our developers, because it just gets passed down to the homeowner.
Thank you.
Okay, Ms. Smith, we'll go back to you, if you don't mind. Subject matter of debt. According to the county's 2024 annual financial report, the county incurred over $112 million in debt for educational projects, parks, emergency management operations, and various general government maintenance and renovation projects. Do you believe that debt is justified? And if not, which projects would you have not recommended?
When it comes to the debt, I think my approach would be to start to pay that debt down. It's not just the debt itself, it's the cost of servicing that debt. So the debt service this last year was $109 million, and I believe that's going to go up. So $109 million, that's $65 million worth in principal, and it's about, the rest of it's all in interest. So when I think about how much we're spending just to service the debt, that's money I think that we don't have to pay our teachers more, money we don't have to pay our county employees more. And so we've got to be more thoughtful about our capital projects. We have to make sure that we're building the right size of capital projects. So I don't know that I would actually take any of those ideas, those projects off of the list. I think it's important for us to be able to provide those quality services. Everyone wants to work in a nice space, but I think we have to start looking at what we need versus maybe what we want and some of the cost of going into that building. I think our schools are really nice, but maybe we can actually come with a different model. It's a little bit, more cost effective, because I'd much rather see money go into our teachers' pockets. Buildings don't teach students. Teachers do. And so we have to be really cognizant of how we're spending that money and where that debt goes. And those are hard conversations when you see all the debt that we pay and you have law enforcement or you have county employees looking at you saying, am I going to get my 4% raise this year? So I think when we take out debt, we have to remember that there's a cost to that debt, and that debt comes out of our operational budget, and that's just not a cycle we want to continue. So I would like to see us actually start to pay down the principal year over year.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Marshall?
Yeah, I'm in simplicity ways, everybody wants to pay off debt. Everybody wants debt to pay down. Our debt is secure. Our debt is being paid down year after year. 177 million of it belongs to the hospital. It's good debt. They're paying for it. They pay for the interest on it too, so we're not paying for that. The projects that you talked about are projects that need to happen, or the county commission wouldn't have brought them forward and voted on them. So again, we don't have a debt problem in Williamson County. We really don't. The number sounds big, but versus our property value, it's below 1%. Nationally, most places want to make sure it's below 8%, and we're below 1%. So we can continue to use our AAA bond rating when it's needed to get things done in this county that are needed. So those projects, I'm sure, were all vetted out by our folks at the county commission. They discussed them, they decided to push them forward, and they decided that was the best way to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Mr. Marshall, we'll start with you in this question. The county has an unassigned fund where money is essentially unrestricted. It is often referred to as the reserve fund. The county's 2024 annual financial report indicates the balance of that fund is over $98 million. Should that fund be used, and for what purposes specifically?
Well, obviously, if it's a reserve fund and it's unrestricted, I'm sure it's being looked at for what projects it can be best used for. I don't know, without looking at it and talking about specific projects, which ones I would suggest that it be used for, or whether it's needs to continue to be funded for a rainy day. We cut. Last year, the county commission decided to move our operating amount from 92% of all the monies that come in up to 94%. That left a smaller cushion than we've ever had. That cushion put us in a problem this year where we're having to ask for a 5% cut just to get the raises that we want for the county employees. So I'm not quick to run out and spend money and make sure that we have enough for a rainy day fund in case something is needed. We don't need to be running at zero cash under any circumstances.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
Yeah, so it is imperative that we do keep a healthy fund balance. That is part of our AAA bond rating, one of the things that they look at. So we always want to make sure we have at least 3 to 6 months of operating expenses put aside. So in case something should happen, God forbid, that we're actually able to take care of the services that we are required to provide. So that is something the comptroller looks at, very carefully every year to make sure that we have a healthy fund balance. I think what we've done in the past has been very conservative in trying to keep that fund balance up. We have used it in the past for just things that, like vehicles, expenses like that, maintenance. We're actually able to use those funds so we don't actually have to take out debt. So I think that we've actually had a pretty conservative use of that fund balance. So I would not be for, depleting that under any circumstances. I just don't think that would be being good stewards of the services that people are expected from our county. And we got to make sure we have money to pay our law enforcement. We got to make sure we have money to pay, our emergency services, our public safety people, our teachers. The schools also are required to have a fund balance also. So I think we got to make sure we keep that money, in the reserves. But we do collect our taxes at a very high rate. We're very fortunate. It's usually somewhere between 98 to 99%. So we do seem to project our revenue on the lower side. So if we have to increase that for 1 year, I don't think that that's a bad idea. Thank you.
Okay, next question starts with Commissioner Smith. Annexation, it's been in the news some. Discussion about annexation has sparked reaction in Williamson County and the state capitol. The county commission adopted a resolution asking the state to change the law, allowing the county to have a final say about annexation. Cities within the county adopted resolutions asking the state not to change the law. Can you share your view of the role of the counties versus the cities in annexation and unincorporated areas?
Yes, thank you. So yes, this has been quite the controversial topic. And so we do have a county growth plan, and we do have an interlocal agreement. And I was in support of that. That was probably one of the tougher votes when I got on the county commission, because we had so many citizens show up that were so concerned about how the process was handled. And so, and I made an admission to understand what their concerns are and how we can actually improve that process. Because I do believe that there was enough there to actually warrant us taking a closer look at the process that was adopted. We have the growth roundtables. They happen once a quarter, but they happen during the day. That's really probably not really often enough. And so I was in support of this resolution, and I, even though it did not pass, I think that it actually created conversations between the county and the municipalities on how we need to work closer together to make sure the concerns of our county citizens were being heard. They feel like the burden of the loss of quality of life and their taxes going up is going fully on them. And so I just, I think it was our responsibility to represent their concerns. That's why myself and 15 other commissioners were in support of that resolution. But it wasn't to just dismiss all of the work that we'd done with the interlocal agreement and the county growth plan. It was just saying, hey, we've got more work to do here. So we need to work together. We need to continue to have those conversations. And I do think there's going to be some improvements, and there's going to be better communication moving forward. So I am very, very hopeful that this will work out for Williamson County.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall?
Yeah, so we certainly differ on this issue. I was sitting in that meeting from the audience standpoint, and my mind immediately went to, doesn't this sound like something we can work out amongst ourselves? Why are we asking for bigger government? Why are we taking something that we've been working on for the last couple of years with the cities and the county and their planners, hammering this out with getting everybody in agreement, and then we decide to write a resolution because we think that the county deserves a veto power? That's bigger government. I'm not in favor of bigger government, and that also infringes on individual property rights. The issue is annexation. An individual applies to a city and asks if they can be annexed. The city then decides whether they can fulfill that by offering them the proper infrastructures. If they can't, they deny it. If they can, they accept it. Why would you want to interfere with that process? they're within the UGB. It's not outside the plan. It's within the plan they worked on, that everybody agreed on. So yes, we differ on this one. I believe in individual property rights, and I believe in smart governance, and I believe in collaboration and working together with our problems. Thankfully, the state saw it the same way. They voted 19-2 against and sent it back and said, y'all work on this.
Thank you.
Thank you both. That concludes our open response questions. We'll move to the lightning round. And just as a reminder, with the lightning round, you're asked to provide a yes, no, or at a maximum of 2 or 3 word answer. We're going to start with Dorinda Smith with that. There will be 7 questions. When Dorinda finishes, you all answer. We'll immediately move to the next panelist. Dorinda.
Okay, Mr. Marshall, we're going to start with you fast. Should the new judicial center be on H.G. Hillside in Franklin, yes or no?
To be determined. It may not be the best site. And I think we need to vet that out, and
Ms.
they're looking at
Smith.
It depends.
All right, Ms. Smith, do you support a moratorium on residential development? Yes or no?
At this time, no.
no.
Okay, Mr. Marshall. Should the legislature return school board elections to nonpartisan? Yes or no?
Boy, that's a tough one. No.
Okay. Ms. Smith?
No.
No? Okay.
Ms. Smith, will you raise taxes at any point in your 4-year term, yes or no? And you're being recorded.
Are we rolling?
Always the last resort.
No.
All right, excuse me, this question is, you choose 1, 2, or 3, okay? So, this goes to Mr. Marshall first. The county has 3 options to pay for future infrastructure needs. 1, bonding or debt, 2, raise taxes or fees, or 3, do you delay or make no improvements?
Bonding.
I choose prioritization and analysis.
Okay. Back to you, Ms. Smith. Is the current level of fire protection sufficient in rural areas of the county? Yes or no?
No.
Mr. Marshall?
No.
Thank you.
Okay, you'll be glad to know this is your last question. Mr. Marshall, we will begin with you. Should the county play an active role in affordable or attainable housing, yes or no?
On some level, yes.
Ms. Smith?
We shouldn't inhibit the free market.
That concludes our final round of questions. We'll conclude tonight's events. We'll conclude with candidate closing remarks, and we will begin with Mary Smith.
Thank you. For the first time in 24 years, Williamson County will elect a new county mayor, and the choice you make will shape the future of the community we all love. My decision to run didn't happen a few months ago. I was called to serve 4 years ago, and since then, I've worked to make sure the people I represent always have a voice in their local government. I know what I'm up against. I don't have deep pockets. I don't have endorsements of political insiders. But this campaign isn't powered by high-priced consultants. It's powered by everyday people, just like you, who believe government should work for all of us and not just a select few. This race is not a stepping stone for me. It's the cornerstone of who I am and how I will serve. I've been willing to speak up when it wasn't easy, to stand firm when it wasn't popular, and to fight for a government that works for the people. And now you have a choice. Follow politics, power, and popularity, or choose someone you trust, someone who's had your back for the past 4 years. Williamson County is my home. I haven't been on the sidelines. I've been on the front lines, asking hard questions, making tough decisions, and delivering results. I don't own a business or multiple properties, so I receive no benefit from this race or future county decisions. I only have a commitment to protect what makes this county special for the next generation. So if you want a leader who will listen, stand firm, and deliver, I humbly ask for your vote. On May 5th, choose Smith on the 5th. Thank you, and God bless Williamson County.
Thank y'all for being here, and thank you, all of you, for your questions and for your concern for our community. This is an important election. We've got a decision to make, who we want the next leader of Williamson County to be. Listen, there's a lot of talk tonight about these questions that we're answering, a lot of innuendos going about attacking the American way. To have nothing and to grow a business to success and then want to step away from your business to lend your talents to run a county, I think is a beautiful thing. And I think it should be celebrated, not attacked. Listen, we want to make a decision on what's best. What is best? Who's going to bring the best cooperation, collaboration around our comprehensive growth plan? Who best is going to protect, preserve our culture and quality of life? Who knows it best? Who's going to protect individual property rights at all cost? And who best represents all the hardworking and associates of Williamson County, including our Sheriff's Department? It's important. We've got a choice ahead of us, and I ask for your vote. I'm Andy Marshall. I'm running for Williamson County Mayor, and I look forward to serving this county in a whole new way.
I'd like to thank each of you all and Mr. Mavala. All three of these folks, Andy Marshall, Mary Smith, and BK Mavala, have put their names on the ballots, participated in this forum and others, and are working in this community to seek your vote. So we'll take this opportunity to say thank you. Also want to thank our co-sponsors who worked to make tonight's event possible. That's Franklin Tomorrow, the League of Women Voters of Williamson County, WAKM Radio, Williamson County Association of Realtors, the Williamson Herald, and of course, Williamson Inc., the Chamber of Commerce and Office of Economic Development. Also, thank you to our panelists, Derby Jones, Jason Murphy, and Dorinda Smith. Thank you to Columbia State, Dr. Shane Hall, Mary Beth Shalley, for their efforts in sharing this facility with this community and allow us to host this event tonight. Thank you, Williamson County TV, for broadcasting this event. You'll be able to access this program via a link on our webpage to the Williamson Inc. YouTube channel. The link and interviews with candidates for county mayor, county commission, both school boards, the county school board, Franklin Special School Board. All of that information is on our website, including election day information, early voting information. Early voting takes place April 15th through the 30th. And of course, we encourage you to take a look at that, use that information. We hope it's helpful to you as you seek the next leaders of this community on May 5th. Thank you all for attending. God bless.